You know what, Dr. JP?
Yes, Leo?
I kind of want to hear something kind of scary. I kind of want to hear a scary story. You know? You know when you tell me a scary story like for Halloween and stuff?
You want to hear a skit? But Leo, I don't want you to have nightmares.
But I really want to hear a scary one. Please, can you just read me a...
Alright, Leo. If you promise that if you have nightmares, you're not going to blame me. Okay? And if you have nightmares, I might not read you more scary stories, okay? Is that a deal?
Yeah.
So, do you see anything you would like to read?
Oh, that one right there. Right there.
You mean 5 haunted houses? Oh, that might be a little too scary for you.
Please, can you read it to me?
Alright, take a seat. You take a seat right here. I'm gonna read it to you, but you gotta be a good little lion, okay? Alright. So, 5 haunted houses. Are you sure you're gonna handle this? You're not saying much.
I'm a little bit scared of it.
Well, you want me to read it or not?
No, read it, please.
Alright. So, 5 haunted houses. We're gonna start out haunted house number 1. Ooh, that looks like a haunted house. This is called Are You Afraid of Ghosts? High on a hill, in an old house, its windows were broken and its shutters creaked and bats flew in and out of the chimney. Kids walked faster when they passed by it. Everyone said it was a haunted house. Everyone but Jake, because Jake didn't believe in ghosts. There's Jake. And one night, Jake and his friend, there's his friend, they walked by the house, and his friend wanted to run, and Jake stopped right in front. Hey, are you coming in with me? He said. Not me, said the friend. And he started running, and he took off running. You're chicken. You're afraid of the haunted house.
Why is he calling him chicken?
Leo, quiet and listen to the story, please. So, Jake stood all alone on the walkway, and he looked up at the house. And a big moon shone down on it, and he felt a little shiver creep up his spine. Hey, I'm not afraid of ghosts, Jake said to himself. Then he walked right up to the house, and he knocked 3 times. And the door swung right open. And Jake peered inside, but no one was there. So he thought, I'll just walk right in.
Oh, why did he do that?
Stop interrupting the story, Leo. And he walked into the house, into the living room. And the only light was from the fireplace, and everything looked dark and shadowy. Jake went up to a big chair and he sat in front of the fireplace. And while he sat down, he almost jumped right out of his skin. Ah! A girl was sitting in a chair just across from him, and she smiled at Jake. "What's wrong?" she asked. "Are you afraid?" I'm not afraid of anything," said Jake. "Me neither." "My friends are scared of this house, but I'm not." "Me neither." Jake frowned. This girl had to be afraid of something. Maybe he could scare her. Well, what happened here? "Everyone says this house is haunted," Jake said. "But I'm not afraid of ghosts." "Me neither," said the girl. And then she disappeared into the chair. "Oh, that was really kind of crazy." "Shh, Leo. This is haunted house number 2, it's called. You'll be sorry." "I hope I'm not going to be sorry listening to this story." Shh. It starts out. Lisa was visiting her aunt and uncle, and they lived in an old house filled with strange things. And some people said the house was haunted, but Lisa didn't care. She liked scary stuff. Kind of like you, Leo. You said you liked scary stuff. She liked the fireplace that threw scary shadows on the wall. She liked the tall windows that rattled like bones in the wind. And she liked the winding staircase that had old creaky steps. And most of all, she liked the marble statue at the bottom of the staircase. The statue was of an old man. His marble face was set in a frown, an awful frown, and his twisted hands held a handkerchief, and the weirdest thing was he wore a pair of thick, old wool socks over his marble feet, and Lisa wondered what was under those wool socks. "Can I take those socks off?" Lisa asked her uncle. "You'll be sorry if you do. So don't do it!" Okay. I didn't know it was such a big thing. But Lisa passed the statue every time she went up and down the stairs, and she was dying to find out what was under those socks. So Lisa looked around and she reached out to touch the socks, but just then her aunt came by. "Can I take off his socks, Auntie, please?" "You'll be sorry if you do, Lisa," her aunt said. "So don't do it!" Okay. But that night Lisa went to her bedroom and she pretended to go to sleep. But instead, she waited until the house was dark and quiet, and then she crept down the stairs. And that's when she saw the statue was waiting for her at the bottom of the steps, and it was lit by the moonlight. Oh yes, Lisa looked at that frowning face, and she looked at those twisted hands, and then she looked down at the socks, and she really wanted to find out what was under those socks, and her hands trembled as she reached for the socks, and she was reaching for the socks, and she grabbed the socks, and she pulled the socks, and
What was that, Dr. JP?
That was You'll Be Sorry, Leo. So, are you ready? I'm going to read Haunted House number 3, A Terrible Fright. Starts out, 5 little ghosts lived in a haunted house. Eek, said the first one, I just saw a mouse. Help, said the second one, there's a spider on the wall. Yikes, said the third one, there's a bat in the hall. Yuck, said the fourth one, there's a lizard on the floor. Uh-oh, said the fifth one, I hear a knocking at the door. And what could it be? Then, ooh, went the wind, and out went the light, and 5 little ghosts got a terrible fright. Ah! What'd you think of that one, Leo?
Well, those kids were just trick-or-treating.
That's right, but this is Haunted House number 4. And this is called Rap, Rap, Rap.
Rap, rap, rap? I mean like,
listen to the story, Leo. Luis, he couldn't believe his eyes. His new house was a nightmare, and his family was moving in that very night. Here's Luis. Luis followed his mother and father up to the house, and the front door creaked and moaned, and the father opened the door, and it creaked and groaned, and they walked inside. And Luis looked around the house, and inside it was bad as the outside. It was old and dark and dusty and creepy. I don't live here. I'm not gonna live here, he said to his mom and dad. And they just smiled, and they just patted his head, and they said, you're gonna get used to it, Luis. Don't you worry about it. You can get used to it. And then Luis, he started to climb up the stairs to his bedroom, and he heard footsteps echoing through the house. Something was following him, and he kept stopping and looking around. Was something following him? And then he ran straight to his room, and everything was quiet as a tomb, when Luis heard the sound.
wait a minute, what sound did he hear?
Shh, it went. And then something pulled the sheet off of his bed. Ah! And he screamed his head off, and then his parents came in the room. And they said, what is going on here? And they put the sheet back on him, and they started singing him songs. And they said, you just had a bad dream. But Luis knew better. Something's in this house. Oh, Dad. But then, the next night, Luis was climbing up the stairs to his bedroom, and he heard footsteps echoing through the house again. Something was stopping, and he felt something was following him. And then he went up to his room, and he jumped right into bed, and he turned off the light, and he pulled the sheet over his head, and then everything was quiet. Quiet as a grave. And then he heard the sound, and it went. And then something pulled the sheet over his head, and he goes, ah, 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 and he screamed his head off again. And that's when his parents came running in. Luis, stop screaming, they said. You just had a bad dream. It was not a dream, Luis said, and I'm not going to live here one more night. There was nothing their parents could do. Luis would not stay in the house any longer. They had to pack up and move. And the next day, Luis carried all the things down the staircase, and his footsteps echoed through the empty house. He kept stopping to look around. Was something following him? He heard something going. There's the house. And he put all of his things in the trunk of the car. And he got in the back seat of the car, and he watched the house as they drove away, and he said, "Oh, I never want to see that house again. Never, 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 never." But everything was quiet in the car. Quiet as a coffin. And then Luis heard something coming from the trunk, and it went. And then a little voice whispered in his head, and it said, "So, where are we going?"
You mean the ghost is going with him?
Yes, Leo, I think that's what it is about. Now, this is Haunted House Story number 5, The Green Door. It was Halloween, the spookiest night of the year, and Tom couldn't wait to go trick-or-treating. This year he was dressed up as a vampire, and he put fangs on his teeth, he painted his face white, he threw a black cape around his shoulders, and he got his bag for treats. He was all ready. And then he said, "Well, I gotta go meet my friend Ben." Ben had just moved to an old house. It sat on the edge of town, and Tom had not been there yet. But he knew that the house had a green door. So Tom walked along the streets. The night was very dark. A full moon was in the sky, and everyone was out trick-or-treating. There was monsters, and mummies, and vampires, and witches, and Tom, he felt a little bit afraid. He couldn't wait to get to Ben's house. Well, so he walked to the edge of town, and all the houses were old and gloomy. And then he saw it. It was a house with a green door. He walked up and rang the doorbell, and a monster opened the door. "Hey, Ben," Tom said. And a noise came out of the monster's house. "Are you ready to go trick-or-treating?" Tom asked. "I like your costume," Tom said. "God, that's a really nice costume you made." The monster answered. "And you're talking like a monster, too. I like that." So, the two friends, they went from house to house. "Trick or treat," Tom said. The monster would say. Their treat bags got fuller and fuller and fuller. "I love Halloween," Tom said. The monster answered. And then they went to the next house, and it was old, and it had a green door, too. And Tom rang the doorbell. "Trick or treat," they yelled, and Ben opened the door. "Hey, where have you been? Been waiting to go trick-or-treating for a while." What? Tom's eyes got bigger and bigger, and he turned around. Said the monster, and then the monster ran off into the night. What did you think of that one, Leo?
That was kind of scary. It mean he was really trick-or-treating with a monster?
Yes. That was 5 haunted houses. What did you think, Leo?
Yeah, I like that one. Those were good stories. I like scary stories.